being followed.
I know. You go on ahead. I've got something planned.
Looks like this is the place. Now, I know I have that invite here somewhere. If this were a movie, someone would spring a trap right about now! One lone hero against overwhelming odds. I love being me. With all this space to maneuver, I can't lose.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. The last part we start off the game, and now we're in stage 4, I think this is, Warehouse 66. And before we get into the main gimmick, if you're playing on easy difficulty, if you lift one of the crates nearby the entrance, near the little exit door, I think it's actually a barrel, not a crate, you'll find the comic book for this stage, which is Peter Parker Spider-Man number 85. Now, this is probably one of the most straightforward stages in the game, because it's essentially just a standard enemy rush. There's maybe 10 or so guards throughout this entire area. You just need to take them all out. A good amount are on the floor, but most of them are up on the main boxes here in the warehouse. And the thing that makes them easier to take out than the ones on the floor, if you even knock them slightly off the boxes, they play the falling from a rooftop animation and are taken out immediately. If they're just falling down like 2 crates, it counts.
Look at me go.
When you finish all of the guards, Spider-Man's gonna remark that there's still one left somewhere. That one doesn't spawn until you take out everyone else, and it always spawns on the floor. Where he spawns from, I think, is partially random. I've seen him spawn from the direction of the exit door, but when I go over there in this particular playthrough, he's not there at all. So he probably just tries to spawn, I would estimate, maybe on the opposite side of the area from you or so. Maybe 90 degrees, actually. So you can't see him spawn in. Overall, though, not a bad stage. Kind of pointless in the long run, really. But, hey, every game needs a couple of mook rush stages. And here I am waiting for him, but no, there he is. And once you take him out, you're done with the stage.
What, no more? Time to get some answers. Alright, Chuckles. You're gonna tell me everything you know.
I ain't telling you spit.
I thought you'd say that. You know, I've never really suspended a man like this before. I hope this web line holds.
Okay. They said something about an airfield. Hangar 18. It's all I know, I swear.
Now there's a good thug. You see? You're not as dumb as you look. Look out!
Get up, wall crawler. I'm not done beating on you yet.
Shocker! Nice to see you too.
You like that, huh? Well, hold still, cause you're gonna love this.
Getting sloppy, Shocker, old buddy.
First real boss fight in the game is Shocker, and right off the bat, if you're playing the game on hard mode, there's a comic book immediately visible there in that fire there, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 46. Now, Spider-Man 2 has one issue in that I think its boss fights can be a bit too aggressive for their own good. Shocker, especially for a first boss, is a bit too much of a difficulty spike. He's maybe a late game boss difficulty-wise in the first game. He likes to fire out a couple different volleys of shockwaves at you, going in generally a 1-2-3 combo, but he can also just use a shockwave on the floor to shake everything. The problem is, he has a bit too much health, even on the lower difficulties, and what they want you to do is throw stuff at him, like the crates or barrels in the area. And you can do that, but he usually tries to shoot you by the time you get one in your hands anyway. So I guess what you're supposed to do is web him, then follow up with it. But what I like to do is web yank him, web yank one of the crates, which takes out most of his health, and then hope I can beat down the rest of his health before he can beat me down. It doesn't look too hard, but he is very aggressive even on the lower difficulties, and makes for one of the worst first bosses in terms of difficulty spike that I've ever seen. Thankfully, though, I took him out in pretty short time here, in this attempt.
I believe that's all the time we have for today. I think we made some real progress today, Shocker. I really do. Hey, when you get to prison, Remember to share your feelings with the group, okay? Let's see. What was it that Thug said? Hangar 18, right? There's a Hangar 18 at the airfield. I don't need pointy ears and a cape to figure out that this is probably another heist.
Rolling blackout still affecting city. Oh yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it?
Where did they come from?
Hey there, Spidey fans. These guys look like they're up to no good. Well, luckily Spidey's on the scene to make them realize the error of their ways. But watch out, Webhead. This time you may be in over your head.
That tip I got from the Shocker's goon said there's something going down at the airfield tonight. If I hurry, I can just make it.
Alright, welcome to one of the worst stages in the game if you're not playing on kid mode for a couple of reasons. But first off, I should mention, when I say on that attempt with the Shocker fight, I was in that fight for maybe 20 minutes just trying to get the web yank to work properly, and I edited out quite a couple of deaths there. That fight is not fun. Now, first off, in this stage, we actually want to just wander around for a little bit, fighting the random enemies that are located throughout it, because that's just going to make our job a bit simpler later on. I think this is also the first stage in the game, one of the very few for that matter, that doesn't have a comic book in it, so you don't need to worry about missing one here. This is also where you're going to start seeing my main strategy for taking out a lot of the enemies, where I do a jump kick and follow up with maybe another jump kick or a 1-2-3 combo. That usually takes out most enemies. Occasionally there are some that'll take more than that, but that's a very effective strategy for taking out enemies in pretty quick suit. But we're about at the point where the main gimmick of this stage is going to set in, and it makes for some annoyances if you're playing on anything above kid mode.
There's Spider-Man. Arm the bomb and clear out.
A bomb! Something this size could take out a whole city block. Better find the mercenaries and figure out how to turn it off. That bomb had slots that looked like they were made for keys. If I can find them, I can probably disarm the bomb.
And now we have a time limit to find the keys. There are now 4 more groups of enemies located throughout the stage that weren't there before. Usually you can tell that they're there from this, just because it's usually 2 to 3 enemies located right next to each other. One of them holds a key, and you need to grab all 4 of them before the bomb explodes. The bomb exploding is a game over. If you're playing on kid mode, there is no time limit here, so you don't have to worry too much. But on anything above that, you have to worry about a time limit. I'm not sure if the time limit gets longer on different difficulties. I honestly usually play the game on normal anyway, so I honestly forget about that. However, it's not as stressful as it would immediately seem. While I only have 1:45 to get the last 3 keys, yes, you can turn in any amount of keys you have at a time to extend your timer. So even if you get 1 key, you can still go back and extend your time. I want to say each one adds maybe 40 seconds plus from the top of my head, but I'll see for a fact when I do it later on. It is possible to get all 4 keys and get back there before the timer runs out, but due to the fact that each of these teams is randomly placed, it can be tight on time. I believe you actually unlock a costume for getting all of the keys at once. I'll go over all the costumes and their benefits later on, probably more towards the credit sequence. Because like the first game, there are new costumes in the game that give extra benefits, some add some difficulty, some reduce difficulty, so on and so forth. We'll talk about that when the time comes.
You didn't need this green key.
Usually in my experience, there's 2 in each half of the city, because I find that this city is laid out in 2 halves, separated by the middle street. Usually there's 2 on each side. I probably could have taken out that team down there and gotten all 4 keys there at once, but at this point, I was down to the last 30 seconds, as you can see, and I was feeling a bit too tight for time. One thing that is a bit spotty with the keys, though, is placing them into the machine isn't a precise thing. You need to press, I think it's the square button, but you need to be right in front of the thing, the color that it is, and press the square button.
1 down, 3 to go. That's 2. We're halfway there.
So let's see, that's about... As soon as I can get the key in.
3.
Oh no, they had a minute full out, not even 40 seconds. Wow. That's pretty generous. That might also change depending on the difficulty, but again, don't entirely remember. Thankfully, even though this level is fairly large in terms of like pure size, Spider-Man can traverse areas at a pretty quick speed no matter what, so you don't have to worry too much. I also probably could have gone for that web cartridge, and web cartridges are weird in this game where I believe they carry with you between stages. However, I think saving, turning off the console and such might reset them to a default value. I tend to play through this game in one fell swoop anyway, same with the first one, so I don't entirely remember if that's how it works, but I think that's a thing. With that, though, we now have all 4 keys, so we can head back to the bomb and end off this level. Which doesn't really do much in the long run of the plot. In fact, I don't think this level ever gets mentioned again, so... kind of a pointless stage here for padding. Padding stages are weird because I think sometimes they're nice and needed if the game's going to be too short otherwise, but at the same time, if they don't serve any purpose at all aside from just being kind of a distraction, what's the point? A good example, I think, is console exclusive levels, like the Kraven level in the Xbox version of Spider-Man 2.
Quick! That's it for the bomb. Now on to the airfield. Looks like my hunch was right. Now to see what these guys are up to. This is getting serious. Wait a minute. That looks like the same briefcase that Shocker stole. If I can get this one, I bet I'll figure out what's going on here.
The cops will be here soon. When they show, make sure they have a good time.
They're gonna ambush the cops, and with some pretty heavy gear as well. I better hurry and take those machine guns out. What a mess! The cops are on their way. If I don't whip up these machine guns, they're gonna be in for a rough night. I need to take out all 6 machine guns. Better not let them see me. I'd be harder to spot on those lampposts.
Do not entirely trust his advice about the lampposts. Do not climb up them, use L1 targeting, and swing up to the top of them. Why? Their collision is all over the place. Very often when you're climbing up one of these lampposts, you will clip through them like you're climbing on top of something, and not only does it just look bad, but it can lead to some weird glitches, such as... Yeah, that happened in one attempt at this level. That wasn't good. It kind of reminded me of one time I was playing Okami, though, in the little demon area in the first third of the game. In that giant, like, cylinder room, I jumped down as a Matarasu, and I clipped through a seam and just fell forever. Either way, as Spider-Man mentioned, our goal here is to take out all 6 of the machine guns. How you do that is up to you. You can play the stealth game and just web them up. You can go down there and punch everything to death. It's all up to you. Personally, I recommend the webbing when it comes to the enemies, not the machine guns. Because if you take care of the enemies, you can just punch the machine guns from there because, well, there's no one that can use the machine guns. If you do get spotted, they will all start firing machine guns at you, and while it's not the most annoying thing, especially given that there's plenty of cover around here for you to jump around and maybe single out the machine guns and enemies one by one, overall, I would still recommend just trying to play it safe and stealthy. And even though Spider-Man talked about the cops arriving and that there could be a potential time limit, there isn't. You don't have to worry about anything time-related here. Take your time if you need to, and you should be fine. This is also the first level where another power-up appears, returning from the first game. I think it's to the left of the hangar, the Freon webbing, which is the ice-based weapon. We'll be seeing that a couple times throughout this game, though not as common as Spider-Man 1. In fact, in general, power-ups are a lot rarer in this game. Particularly the spider armor, I think is only maybe 1, if not 2 levels, which is a little bit odd, but I'll take it, I guess. Well, actually, no, I'd rather have it be more common. What am I talking about? Now, the comic book for this stage is only available on Kid Mode, and as we'll see right now, there's a box here in the back of this little side of the warehouse, or the hangar, rather. The comic book is beneath this on Kid Mode. It's Peter Parker Spider-Man number 92. And at this point, we can just take out the last machine gun, and you are good to go. I think you might have to get closer to the hangar to progress, but I honestly forget. I always do it anyway.
Whoa! Hey!
Take that, spider freak.
You tied up the pilot? Good. Now let's get out of here.
Quick, Spider Lad. You stop the plane, and I'll get the bad guys. Oh, wait. I don't have a sidekick. I guess a handy-dandy Spider Tracer will have to do while I rescue the pilot. That plane's out of control. Maybe I can use my webbing to stop it.
This level is absolutely hell. The plane behind us is slowly moving forward, and if it hits anything, like the barrels or anything which you need to destroy with impact webbing or web yanking in the case of some floating engines, it will take damage. If it hits a wall, it is destroyed instantly. The amount of HP it has depends on your difficulty. On normal here, it'll take 5 hits for it to be destroyed. On hard, it's 4 hits, easy it takes 6, and Kid is also 6. Our goal here is to get to maybe this room, which is one of the more open rooms in the area. Web up one propeller, and then web up the tail fin. Because at that point, the one propeller that's still running will keep it moving, yes, but in a very tight circle that doesn't give it much chance to run into any walls. If it does, you're getting a game over. This mission's hard, but mostly just because it requires a lot of speed and dexterity that the game has not required thus far.
Not a bad find.
Comic book for this stage is only available on normal difficulty, right there in the first room. That is Peter Parker Spider-Man number 90, I believe. I don't think the wings quite count as a hitbox when it comes to crashing, but I think the engines do. Once you web up both engines in the tail fin, though, you're fine.
Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Thanks. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye. Rise and shine, Captain. Okay, now that the pilot's safe, I have to get to that helicopter. I just hope whoever's behind this isn't one of those island base in the middle of nowhere types. I don't have that much web fluid.
But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we're going to be chasing down that helicopter and hopefully finding out who the man behind the mask is. See you guys then.